Hello, my awesome friends. It is so good to see you guys. Miss Haynes here to show you how we are going to make some super cute, super easy snowflake art.
So the first craft we're going to make is a string ornament design. I took some string, I stretched it out as wide as my arms could go about 2 different times. And I'm going to pick the color that I like the best to start the snowflake design. My cardboard has 12 notches on it. I want to take my piece of string. I want to make sure there's a good tail so I can tie it at the end. And I'm going to notch the top and I'm going to notch straight down the bottom. Now the easiest design here is to wrap my string all the way around, notching each little section as I go. It's going to create this really simple, really pretty, maybe not on the back, but the front's going to be a really pretty snowflake design. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, if we want a different design, I'm going to notch the top and notch the bottom, but this time I'm going to skip a notch and then start to wrap it again. I'm going to skip one at the top and I'm going to skip one at the bottom. Then I'm going to skip another one, notch it again, at the bottom, notch it again. Now I have some simpler lines. I have some extra string so I can notch it around as well, just to double up. This one I feel like actually looks like a snowflake. Now if I want to make it even easier, I notch the top, I notch the bottom, and then I'm going to go straight across the other way, kind of like a plus sign. This is going to leave 2 empty notches between each one of my lines. Super simple. Now let's talk about what kind of shapes I could make with this. If I notch this at the top, and instead of going straight down, I swing over to the side, I can make a triangle shape. This time you're going to notice there are 3 empty notches in between where I'm hooking my string. And again, I'm going to have a whole lot of string left over, so it's a great time to double up and just give it a little bit of an extra line here. Don't worry what the back looks like. We just want the front to look cool. I can also make a square design that's pretty cool. Once I notch the top, I can skip 2 spaces along the edge, notch my string there, skip 2 spaces along the edge, and notch it again. Each time I'm skipping 2 spaces, and I'm not going across the cardboard, I'm going around the edge of the cardboard. I am going to have to go back and forth directions a couple times to make sure I get all my lines, but it turns into this cool square. Now, I can also follow the same steps, but instead of skipping 2 spaces, I just skip 1 space. Again, wrapping around the edge of the cardboard instead of going all the way across the cardboard, and it's going to create this hexagon shape. I am going to have to make sure that I also go backwards with my string to fill in those empty gaps. But once I do that, it's going to create this fun hexagon that's going to leave a big empty hole where I can add another cool design or even color it with markers if I want to. Remember, if you have extra string, you can always go back and double up on your lines to make them extra thick. Just make sure that your tails match up where you started and where you ended so that you can tie them together for a hanging hook. Now, if you're having trouble choosing a design, let's start the same way. Let's hook it up at the top, but let's throw a dice in there. I'm going to roll this dice here, and the only rule is if you roll a number 1, you're going to want to roll again. But I'm going to roll my dice, and I'm going to start with this number 6 here. Now, this number 6 is how many spaces I count, and that is where I'm going to start my string. Now the rules are simple. Where my line starts, I'm going to go forward a space. Where my line stops, I'm going to go forward a space. So I go forward 1, and I go back 1. I go forward 1, and I go back 1. This is going to end up looking a lot like the very first design I showed you, and that is completely fine. When I throw an extra string in there that has a different number on it, you'll see the difference here. So this one has a number 3. I'm going to take my new string. I'm going to hook it again at the top, making sure I have an extra tail available for tying. And this time, instead of going the number 6, this time I'm going to count 3 spaces, and that is where I'm going to hook my string. I'm going to go back to where my string started. I'm going to move forward 1, and then I'm going to go where my string ended, move forward 1, and hook it there. Move forward, move forward. Keep moving forward. Now, I like to cover my thumb with where my hook was, where I put my string last. That way I don't get mixed up. If I do get mixed up, it's not a big deal. I can just unwrap it. I can try again. I can ask for help. It's totally fine. But this is just a little bit extra, a little bit of a challenge, and a little bit fun. It's going to turn into a really neat design as long as I keep going all the way around to where I started. I'm going to match up my tails. I'm going to trim them up. Make sure none of those other strings are showing in the way. If I have some other strings in the back, I can carefully trim them. I don't want to trim them too short or they'll come undone. Or I can even knot them up to where we can't see them. But the 2 that I choose for hanging, I want to match up the tails. I want to make a loop. I want to take those tails and I want to pull them through the loop like that. Now I have a perfect place to hang my ornament. Oop, gotta trim that one up there. If you have any trouble with the knot, just ask for help. No biggie. These ornaments are meant to be fun and the combinations are endless. Let's talk about our next craft, the paint. I've got my paint, I've got my recycled materials, and my blue paper is much smaller than yours. But I'm going to take some cardboard, I'm going to dip it in the white paint, and it's going to stamp some cool lines. Just so happens that snowflakes are made up of lines. So I'm going to create this crisscrossing pattern. I'm going to make sure that my cardboard kind of stays off the edges of my plate so my fingers stay clean. And I can use my circles to go along the ends of my lines. I can use my circles in the middle of my lines. There's really all kinds of possibilities here. Did you know that there are no snowflakes that are like any other snowflakes? They are all completely different. They are all completely original. And your snowflakes are going to be completely different and original too. There is no wrong way to create these snowflakes. You just want to make sure that you're keeping your area and your materials clean. Make sure that you are hanging them off the edge so the next person that grabs them doesn't get a handful of paint. Merry Christmas and happy crafting!